¿Qué pasa, cracks? ¿Qué pasa, campeones? Welcome to Churros y Tácticas Podcast. It is the 30th of November, 2020, and Kiyan and myself are here to break down all of the La Liga action and then some, My God, what the days have brought to us today. I'm not taking one. I am not taking two. I am taking three different kinds of antibiotics, but I'm here. I'm energetic. I'm pumped. Might be the antibiotics to overcome this illness that has beset my stomach, and with the help of God, and with the help of Jesus, and with the help of the Lord, we're going to overcome this, and we're going to get through this Churros y Tácticas fully just, healed and feeling good and all that stuff. I think I've exerted all of my energy in that intro. I'm going to pass it on to my man, Kiyan. Kiyan, I'm assuming you're a little bit downtrodden because lurking in the shadows, creeping up behind you guys, 3 points away with one game at hand is Barça. And ouch, that loss against Alaves. Oh, boy.
Great intro. You did it justice. I'm really happy for you. I really am. I'm not that impressed with Barcelona, but these are the little victories that you or I should take in this very strange season where neither team looked particularly good. So, congratulations. Real Madrid have also lost Eden Hazard due to injury for a very key upcoming stretch, which they could have really used him. That whole thing is frustrating, so that's another thing. And Atletico, again, are the winners of all this. They look great.
Absolutely.
Like they had 65% possession against Valencia without João Felix. They got him some rest. Thomas Lemar slotted in, filled that role pretty well. And
he was good.
Just a new style of football. I'm very interested to see how that translates in the derby, which is upcoming in a couple league games. Yeah, when you say they don't look great, that's harsh. I mean, they're the only team that's winless now in the league. In Europe, it hasn't looked as good, and they have Bayern upcoming. But I think they've looked. I think the word great is quite accurate.
Let's start with Valencia Atletico. I think that was the match of the weekend, really, with all permission to the league leaders, that is Real Sociedad, who faced the second in place, of course, in Villarreal. I think this match, the Valencia Atletico, for me, in my case, left a little bit more to desire. I thought the Valencia that we had seen in the previous matches was going to really kind of set this up to be a clash that they were going to see as, okay, this is going to dictate how our season will be, and we're going to be more adventurous. We're going to be more optimistic, adventurous, and brave, if you will. I think that's the word I'm looking for. But Valencia, most of the match, just found themselves really defending, and we're almost scared to kind of break out of that defense, I feel. We didn't see that much of Yunus. We didn't see much of Maxi. We didn't see much of any of the forwards, for that matter, from Valencia. And with regards to, you could say, well, that's more credit and merit to Atletico. But also for Atletico, I feel that it's clear that there's an Atletico with Joao Felix, and there's an Atletico, without Joao. Of course, Diego has to. I mean, all the coaches have to rotate, for that matter. And without the likes of Luis Suarez and Diego Costa and Joao Felix on the bench, I don't want to be too harsh on Atletico neither. But I did feel like, to me, it felt like the Atletico evolved, the Atletico that kind of manifests this obvious problem with the goal, if you will. You know what I mean? Like there weren't that many occasions. I mean, it had to be Lato in the end to put the goal into the back of his net, because there wasn't that much coming from Atletico. So yes, they were the clear, dominator in the first half, keeping possession of the ball, Diego Simeone in that sense stayed true to his style, playing with the three center backs, the two wingers in Trippier and Lodi. But for me, like the big winner in this one, I felt was Lamar. I mean, Lamar is of course a player that we expected so much from ever since he arrived after the World Cup for what was it? I think it was 50 million. And he had a good match. Him and as a midfielder and Correa up front, I thought, it was decent. Again, for the standout for me was Lamar, and maybe by the time that Joao Felix did come in, he didn't have enough time to really impact the game. But yes, Atletico had the ball, they had the control, and they seemed kind of at some point more concerned with Valencia not hurting them on the counterattack. Then putting in another goal and laying this match to rest really. So there were just a few, not many dangerous shots. Again, it felt a little bit like the Atletico of old. I'm not going to blame Diego Simeone for this, because I think with the gap that he has created with respects to definitely Barca and also Real Madrid, I think he went to play it safe. And I hope we're not going to see this more often. Put it that way.
Well, your assessment of Valencia is generous, I think, heading into this game. I didn't see much this season. If you're basing it on what they did against Real Madrid, well, I think that's the outlier that a lot of teams will have against Real Madrid this season, where that's the game they look good. Apart from that, they haven't looked good this season. And I also think your assessment of Atletico is a little bit harsh here. And one thing to consider is that while Atletico had a more adventurous game by their standards, in that they kept the ball, Valencia defended, and maybe they didn't generate as many opportunities as you like, they also didn't suffer at all defensively, and Valencia didn't even come close to punishing them, and they created nothing themselves. Whereas Dominic actually had to come up with a couple of big saves, particularly on Lamar a couple times. Lamar had two shots from outside the box that Dominic saved really nicely and pushed wide. Then one on Lamar in the box. And then there was a Jimenez one from the corner in the first half. Ultimately, it took... But
besides Lamar...
Well, it took the lateral own goal. But I think just based on the run of play and the way Atletico were kind of growing into it, I felt that a 1-0 win... Well, that Atletico of old was a 1-0 win, but I think it was a very deserved 1-0 win.
So you're not concerned that we're gonna see, say, second half of the season kicks in, and as we inch closer to the end of the season, I just and again, I mean, this is my assessment. Your assessment is completely different, but I felt that this game at some point, it felt to me like Diego was going to play it safe again. It seemed that at some point he was more concerned of not being caught off guard by a counterattack of Atletico, and I was just fearing that slowly but surely we will see this Atletico morph into the more the Atletico of old, the more boring Atletico, less adventurous, less brave Atletico, and I think maybe that doubt started to creep in, and sort of at the end of the match was my conclusion, or my big takeaway was, okay, let's continue to be brave, Diego, and let's not morph into the Atletico that we've been grown accustomed to over the past seasons.
Well, they had a lot of the ball. So
because besides Lamar, there was nothing. I mean, there was you mentioned the Jimenez one. I don't actually remember Jimenez shot, but besides Lamar, for me, there was just not much of an offensive threat.
Well, they had a lot of the ball, so maybe you just mean they were more conservative with their passing, and in
Correct.
which case maybe. But I mean, I'd rather see Atletico defend with the ball than without the ball, but which is what they usually do. They haven't won at Mestalla since 2016, so if there was conservatism in maybe the way in kind of their vertical passing and movement, I get it. I think it would be interesting to see the derby coming up, what route they go in. Again, like I think the Atletico of old actually would have been one that would have defended deep and not Valencia defending deep. So they were holding onto the ball in Valencia's half often. But I think what will happen in the derby, that's interesting because the derby in many ways is the most overrated game on the calendar because nothing ever happens in it.
You keep saying that.
Yeah.
That's not true. That is not true. There's so many, there's so many derbies that we could sit here and list off that are electrifying, where there's plenty of controversy at the top of my head, the one I have to think, where Cristiano was se encaró con el público, he was having discussions with the crowd, the ball boys got involved, etc. They're great. The derbies are great fun, man.
The ones at the one at the Calderon, I thought were a little bit better. Off the top of my head, sure. Even during that Solari era, we had the Vinicius versus Jimenez one. That was fun. The Ronaldo hat trick at the Calderon. It happens. Maybe I'm just cursed because every derby I've attended has been either 0-0 or 1-1, and maybe I'm tainted by that. But it's never been fun when I've been there. But on the television, there's been some moments. But part of the reason it's not as fun as a Clásico is because, it's a little bit more conservative. Atletico they defend brilliantly well, and Real Madrid are bad when they're facing those kinds of teams. So but that's what I mean. That's why I'm interested in see how this year's derby goes, because Atletico this year are a little bit different, right? They're not. Yeah. I wouldn't say they're open because I think they're actually pragmatic in their offense. They play a little bit higher up the pitch. They create more chances, but also defensively and in transition, they've kept their shape. So they're a better version this way. So I'm curious to know how that goes. But I don't have the answer, but I'm interested.
Do you have any idea if Diego will, or I keep saying Diego, if Luis Suarez will be back for the derby, or how long he still will be out for? I mean, until he tests negative, of course. But how long has it been now? It's been.
I feel like
nearly 2 weeks, right?
I feel like by the derby, that timeline, that should be enough for him to come back. I'll find out in a second, but that's another interesting point to bring up, though. They also had, it wasn't that João Felix didn't play the first half. It's also that they didn't have a 9 again, and they were able to squeeze by with a victory. He's due back December 4th.
Okay,
which
so
should be fine. Yeah.
So it's this week on Friday. So yeah.
So Real Madrid don't play Atletico until the 12th of December. Yeah, that's a million years away. Yeah.
Is this the worst possible matchup for you, given the spell, given the current moment, the mood that is set in the Madrid camp? Is this? I mean, could you? Is this the worst possible rival for you guys at this point?
It's a tough one because not only are you missing Hazard, but yes and no. Yes, because right now it's the mood is bad, and there's injuries and there's other things. It's not it's just not just the results. It's the eye test. It's the health of the team. It's the morale. It's everything. The tactics are a mess. But also, December 12th is so far away, and that football is such a roller coaster. I don't know what exactly the team will look like by then. If they beat Shakhtar, Sevilla, and Mönchengladbach, I think Hazard's diagnosis was like 20 days or something, if I'm not mistaken.
He's out for 2020.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me, because the last game on the schedule is Eibar on the 20th. So the only reason I'm not acting as if I'm like terribly confident that report is true, that he's out for the 2020, because he's recovered quicker than expected last time. So there is like little room for that, but it's not like rushing him back at this point. There's a whole Hazard podcast and book and a 30 for 30 documentary waiting to happen of his Real Madrid career, because it's just crazy. He was the most. So I have a theory for you. Okay.
It's not as bad as Dembélé yet. So listen, hold on those. If there's any publishers listening, hold up on that thought and look at Dembélé first. I think that's a little bit worse.
I would say this is weirder than Dembélé, because he's been at Lille and Chelsea. He was impeccable, like to the point where he was an Iron Man. They always had this thing when I don't know if it's like a general MB. Just hear me out for a sec. They always had this thing in when I was watching Raptors growing up. They had this stat called the Iron Man stat that they would bring on the Raptors broadcast. And Morris Peterson was a Raptors player who just never missed games. He never got injured. They always had this stat every game. Morris Peterson, Iron Man. He has played X amount of games in a row, and it spanned several years. It's not that Hazard just wasn't injury prone. It was that he was literally Iron Man. He was with Lille and Chelsea. He just never got injured. And this is just...
But that's not true. That's factually wrong, Kiyan. Sorry.
Okay, tell me why.
His worst injury, that's where he picked up his injury was with when he was with Belgium, I believe it was. But he was still a Chelsea player.
Which one?
I think it was his ankle. Yeah, it was his ankle. And he got like an implant in his ankle. He had like a metal plate inserted into his ankle.
He missed...
I want to say that was...
He did that.
It happened during a Belgium training session when he was with his national side, but he was a Chelsea player.
He had a surgery in the summer of 2017. It was, which he only missed 3 games because it was over the summer. But then he played the entire following season without problems, after that. So he played an entire season and then just didn't get injured again. So he had his last injury with Chelsea. Okay. He's missed a total of 8 games with Chelsea over his entire Chelsea career. And he had no injuries, no significant injuries before that. So, sorry, the Chelsea injuries, that's over the span from 2015 and until basically he left Chelsea. He missed 8 games. And then before that, he had some hip injuries, minor things. But nothing like this. So he's just constantly be in and out of the lineup with Real Madrid. So this is the theory that I wanted to bring to you. Because no one can explain this. Nobody can. It's just like muscle injuries. Obviously, he had COVID, which is not an injury. It's just anyone. That can happen to anyone. So we're going to just conveniently ignore that one. But he's already had two muscle injuries that have cost him about almost 55 games, or 55 days rather, of football. And that includes, like missing trainings and stuff. Before that, he had the fissure of the fibula. That was a big one. But then they had the hairline crack in the foot. That's kind of where it all started. But it also goes back to summer 2019-20 when they first signed him. He had the hamstring injury, which he missed 3 games. It's just been nonstop since they signed him, essentially. So this is not...
The thing is...
I haven't presented my theory yet. unless you really... Is this something... Is this something that is important to bring in right now, though?
Not yet. Okay. Finish your thought.
The theory.
My apologies.
The theory is he has not been a player who has taken care of himself physically, let's put it that way. The way the gold standard of LeBron James and Cristiano Ronaldo. He comes up to almost every preseason out of shape, and he justifies that. He's justified this publicly. He said this. I'm not making this up. He justifies it by saying, what I do in my off season is I enjoy it because I'm not with my club at that time. I want to enjoy my vacations. Okay. Which is a polarizing view because some people say, well, he's allowed to do whatever he wants in the off season as long as he comes back in shape. My view is, you have an obligation to be a professional all year round, not just when you're playing football. So, I think there's probably somewhere in between on that spectrum where there's probably a balance you can have in between my extreme view and the other extreme view. Maybe that's just the way I'm ingrained. So when I go on vacation, for example, I don't just ignore everything that happens in the football world. I have my pulse on it, right? So I can't just take 2 weeks vacation and then roll up to a podcast and then just be like, oh yeah, I'll just ease my way into this. What happened? Oh, I don't know. Oh, that happened? I didn't know that. I can't be completely unprepared when I come back to this, you know? I have my pulse on it. I know what's going on. I'm keeping track. I'm keeping tabs on what's going on. So I'm not completely ill prepared for what's happening. I remain professional. I take my craft seriously. I think this is catching up to him. He's now about 30, and I think it's like, you know, especially when it's physically related, you can just get away with things when you're younger, when you just can't when you're older, you know? You and I, when we were kids, 10-year-olds, running in the park, do you remember that era where, like, energy just didn't end? Like, the tank was never on empty because it was impossible for the tank to be on empty. You could run in the park. You couldn't understand why your uncles couldn't keep playing with you. They needed to sit down. You're like, what? We just started 3 hours ago. Why do you need to sit down, take a break? Like, that energy was endless. You remember that era? And then when you get a bit older, like you're in your 20s, like you hit like some kind of physical peak, you're like, well, this is fine, you know. And I'm not a drinker, but like you can go to bars apparently, and you can get away with lack of sleep. You can take a few pills, go to work the next day, eat a greasy burger. You're fine. You've cured your hangover. You're not fine, but like you can get away with it. But then like after 30, you can't get away with that stuff anymore. I think this is where we are with Eden Hazard. Do I have a few screws loose, or do you think there's merit to that argument?
Listen, I certainly think there's merit to your argument, and I'm not arguing against what you're saying. My issue that I was taking was when you compared Hazard to the Iron Man and saying it's a worse case than Dembélé. If anything, you talk about Iron Man, I mean, Dembélé was more Iron Man-ish than Hazard before his arrival to Barcelona, because
he's too young.
Never picked. Yeah, but he never picked up an injury. Never.
I know, but he's too young to have a sample size. I think when you signed him,
because of his age.
Yeah, because he was so young, so like he didn't have time to miss football. He's too young at that point.
But that is age aside. I mean, like while you were laying out your argument, I had a quick look comparing the two, you know, the injury reports of both, and a quick count shows that Dembélé has been 81 days injured, has missed 81 games with Barca. Again, before he had never ever had any injury, neither at Rennes, neither at Dortmund. So 81 games that he missed since his arrival to Barca, which was in was it 2016, I believe? 16-17 season. In Hazard's entire career with Chelsea and Madrid, a quick count shows that he's missed 50 games, 50. So that's 81 to 50. And that's an entire season more that Dembélé has missed with Barca. So
yeah, I'm not saying that's not bad.
30 documentaries, the Dembélé case is a lot more of a head scratcher than Hazard.
I don't know if it's more of a head scratcher, but you know, it's not that it's not head scratching. It's just that Dembélé's, he's missed more games because he's been at Barca longer than Hazard has been at Real Madrid, and he also doesn't have the injury history. Partly because Hazard like played 10 more years of professional football than Dembélé did, so the sample size is just much longer with Hazard. So that's why it's weird. Would you like to do the next Churros intro because Dembélé's less weird than Hazard?
Well, could you just admit that Dembélé is worthy of a 30 for 30 documentary?
Sure. Oh my God, sure. This is like the arguments I have with my son when he's like, well, how come that boy can do that? I don't know. Because he can. Sorry.
Well, no, it's just when I put Dembélé's name into the equation, and I felt you got all, huffy puffy about it, and it's like, no, Dembélé's case is a lot more llamativo, a lot more I forget the word, strange, let's say. Okay. But what I found very interesting is, I was going over some of the quotes of Zizou in the press conference that I think is just finished. And, man, touchy times, huh? Touchy times at Real Madrid for sure. It seems that Zizou's not in the mood to really mess about. I mean, I guess one of the reporters asked him about Hazard, his injury, and whether it's stress related, and he sort of snapped back saying, how could you even make such a claim? That's a massive claim. That's a very heavy duty thing to say, and no, it is not at all stress related. What do you think? I mean, at this point, we know we've talked about Dembélé, his injuries, and how it is most likely stress related, or certainly there's a psychological element to it, right? To the injuries, and how the psyche certainly most definitely affects a player's health in that sense, and a player is more injury prone when stress and other factors come into play. Negative vibes, influences, etc. that have nothing to do with, say, a player's physical ability or physical health, but the mental rather. So I think it's a legit question, is what I'm getting at, and I wonder why Zizou would be so snappy about it.
Well, so the claim about the stress injuries is, on the surface, it sounds like an annoying question. And look, when it comes to these things, it's completely out of my lane, because this is the stuff I know least about. So when an actual doctor comes out and explains an injury, and then Kiyan Sobhani comes out and says, well, if you eat too many burgers past 30, then you can't cure hangovers anymore. Listen to the doctor, not Kiyan Sobhani. But that stress, the stress suggestion was not completely unfounded, and it actually came from the Belgian national team doctor, who suggested that stress might be, didn't say is, but might be the problems for Eden Hazard. And so if Zidane snaps at that, it's probably because a combination of a few things. One, it's that he's just tired of answering questions about injuries all the time. And this goes back to last February, or not last February, like 2 Februaries ago, I think. Zidane is type of manager, probably like any other human being. He's good with like everything, and then there's a boiling point where he just snaps. I think every human has that trait in them, right? It's like over a course of time, it's like, I'm so tired of this, I'm going to snap today. And I don't know if today he snapped, because I actually didn't watch it. I only read the quotes. Ewan covered the pregame press conference for managing Madrid, but so I don't have the context of his visuals and the tonality and stuff like that. But 2 Februaries ago, he had I remember he had a tipping point or a boiling point where he became really snappy with journalists, and he said something like, every single time we come on these press conferences, you ask me the same things. You ask me why this player, some days it's why isn't Asensio playing, why isn't Isco playing, why isn't this player playing? Every player, every time it might be a different player, but it's about somebody not playing. And look, we have so many players in the squad, and it's impossible to keep every single person happy all the time. I have to make decisions. Sometimes good players miss out. That's it. And so he always has those moments where he has things just kind of boil for him. And ultimately, what he said that day is something I agree with. But he said he doesn't agree with that. So I think part of the reason why he may have been snappy in that moment is because he's being asked about these things constantly. In Hazard's case, it's continual now, and B, it's because the reason he may not agree with it is because he also has doctors in the team as well who are telling him things. So if he doesn't agree with that, it's probably because his doctors have also said so. His quote was, no, he's very strong. He's frustrated, but injuries are happening all the time at all the teams. I have no doubts that Hazard is going to be back soon, or I hope he can be back soon. He's absolutely correct also, by the way, that everyone is getting injured everywhere right now. And that is a strain. So I think that's a fact. But
preaching the choir here.
But could that also be stress related?
Mm-hmm. Well, stress in the muscles.
Stress in the muscles is what I mean, right? I guess the Belgian doctor emphasized psychological stress. But there is also a different kind of stress, and that's the physical stress of like the strain that these bodies are going through everywhere. Yeah. Everyone's talking about it. Yeah. The players are talking about it. The coaches are talking about it. It's too much football. That counts as stress, I guess, right? So I think there is maybe merit in the argument either way. I don't know, but whether it's physical stress, psychological stress, it's stress, you know.
I guess the real question is, what is it that you eat when you have a hangover?
I've always wanted to become a doctor. Maybe they can bring me on.
I guess in Hazard's case, it's definitely burgers. Why is it that burgers and Hazard or Hazard is attributed to eating so many boigas and fries?
I don't know burgers for sure, but I think it's because he actually mentioned burgers, or burgers have come up, or he's been pictured eating burgers. So I think burgers specifically is what we always bring into the discussion. I think it's less about these questions are always interesting. Like, we can have an entire discussion about nutrition and stuff, because I'm a huge nutrition guy, and like I'm very careful what I put in my body. But it's not that burgers are off limits. First of all, it's a type of burger you're eating, but two, it's more about your caloric intake, right? So burgers become a problem when you're exceeding your caloric intake regularly with those burgers, fueling that right. A good chunk of your calories for the day. That's what matters more than like the actual burger itself. So. Yeah. In case the nutritionist listening to this is angry about any of this, that's my stance.
I get it. No, I mean that makes perfect sense, right? You got a certain amount of calories, 2,500 calories, I think it is.
Well, right? It depends on the person.
Exceed that, and you're in trouble. See, my hangover go-to food was always more like soup, like sort of comfort food, sort of soups, the noodle soups, Asian
ramen. Ramen's a big one. It's so good.
It's good.
So good.
Or like goulash, like a hearty sort of soul food, something like that settles your stomach and just makes you feel cozy and good and warm inside.
Pasta's a big one. Pasta's like, few people realize how much calories pasta has. That's why I stay away from it, because it's like one noodle, like you're like done for the day. It's like you can't eat anything else. You've exceeded your calorie intake.
Right. But back to sporting matter. I mean, it's unfortunate because I don't know if you share my assessment. I feel that Hazard, up until that injury, was really one of the only bright spots for Madrid. I mean, he was kind of the best player out there.
He was good before he got injured, yeah. A sentiment we thoroughly shared on the Management post-game show, and that it's always unfortunate when a player leaves injured. It was extra unfortunate when Hazard left injured against Alaves, because he was the only one providing a line-breaking presence and going down the middle, where everything else beyond that when he left, and even when he was on, if the ball wasn't at his feet, was Lucas Vazquez crossing to Mariano. And so when he left and until Odegaard and Isco came in, you just didn't have that presence. And that was what was worrying. So something that has been a theme here is that if you want to really provide something more offensively efficient in the upcoming stretch of difficult games against Shakhtar, Atletico, Sevilla, and Mönchengladbach, you really need to get production centrally from Odegaard. And that's something he has provided in the games he's been playing, and in his cameo, and as did Isco against Alaves when they came on. So that's something that we're going to be looking forward to. Be interesting to see. Also, Benzema's back now, so I imagine he just kind of slides back into the starting lineup, and Mariano goes back to the bench. And again, it's a very interesting conversation we have. If you've already listened to the Management podcast and you're listening to this, bear with me for the next 15 to 20 seconds as I kind of explain this. But we do have Churros listeners and Barca fans and La Liga fans who listen to this, and I'm 100% sure of that. So I will just, I think it would be interesting to give the executive summary of what we said on that podcast. What they did in the Alaves game was they put 39 crosses. And a bunch of those were Vazquez to Mariano, partly because while Marcelo and Asensio did contribute to those, Alaves did a really amazing job at suffocating that flank where Marcelo, Asensio, and Cruz were. So that any movement they had or any dribbling they had was pretty much taken out of the game. Vazquez on the other side, who had a great game, and continues to be one of Real Madrid's better players. And whether you think that that's a good or bad thing, I'll leave it up to you. I think Lucas Vazquez is a good player. I think if he's your best player, that's an issue. But he played really well, and he was good defensively, and he put in a lot of crosses into Mariano, some of them really good, and he also had some calculated cutbacks from that side. the math of crossing 39 times into Mariano is not. It's the lowest probable path to a goal because crossing statistically is not a good way to score goals. But that kind of volume, if you're doing it when Ronaldo is in the team, that it just adds up to like you create enough chaos and you create enough chances that eventually Ronaldo scores one of those. So Mariano's a really good off-ball mover. He got into a bunch of headers, but his headers were either at Pacheco or over the bar, and in one case, a freak goal line clearance brilliantly cleared off the line. So that just didn't.
Pacheco was pretty good this game too.
Yeah, he's just good. He's a good goalkeeper.
He's good.
But yeah, he was great in this game. So unfortunately, the math just didn't ultimately end up adding up in this game. So it just didn't work. And with Mariano going back to the bench, and he's the type of player who can get on the end of crosses to business. Like he doesn't have any business getting on most of the crosses he gets into because he's physically incredible at getting to those positions and throwing his body in the way. So what happens now with Benzema back and also with Odegaard, I assume, coming back into the lineup, I assume we're not going to see that in the upcoming games to the extent we saw it against Alaves. But who knows? It's an issue right now because the creativity and the just the inability to break down good defensive sides is troubling.
When are you going to start demanding more from Martin Odegaard and admitting that he's a shadow of himself, a shell of himself from the Odegaard that we saw at Real Sociedad? That's what I'm wondering.
I mean, that's...
Now, granted, obviously, he came in.
That's harsh.
In the second half. He's not the Odegaard that we saw with Real Sociedad. Not even close.
Yeah, but I mean, this is all still new to him. I mean, the difference with Real Sociedad...
We're 11 match days in, bro. How long are you going to say that all of this is new? Just wondering, when are you going to start demanding more, or Madridistas?
Well, one, I actually think he's been good. So I don't have... He hasn't been Real Sociedad good, but there's two reasons for that. One is that with Real Sociedad, everything went through him, so he had more touches on the ball. The other reason, so when you have other central midfielders like Kroos and Modric in the team as well, then you're not getting as many touches on the ball. And the other reason is because he's been in and out of the lineup due to injuries. And third of all, I actually think he has been good. So one of the things I've noticed, that first half against Villarreal, the second half, no, but he was tired. He came off the field. But first half against Villarreal and Inter, those two games, that was really, I thought, the first time where I felt like I was watching the Real Sociedad version of Odegaard in the sense that he was very confident. He was screaming for the ball. He was getting into good positions. He was playing between lines. His passing was good. He was playing nice through balls. And again, him and Isco provided something off the bench. So I think he actually has been good and he's growing into this team. So when will I admit? I don't have anything to admit. I think he's growing into the team and I think he's going to be a really important player.
So my question was, when are you going to start demanding more?
I think
because if this is the Odegaard you're selling for, then I feel like you're getting screwed here on this deal because we clearly saw that he's capable of much better and more.
When will I start demanding more? I mean, probably right about
like when is the test phase over? When is settling in phase done and
I think
step it up phase starts?
I think right about now-ish you want to start seeing more production, I guess. Mm-hmm. I think like right about now is like with some wiggle room and some leniency. I think you kind of want to start him to influence his kind of brain and technical ability on the pitch a bit more. But again, I'm not too worried about this because I think he is growing into the team slowly. So I'm not too worried.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we certainly hope so.
Yeah, we both do, right?
No, I'm not even. I feel like I realize that sounded sarcastic, but I'm genuine about that. Like, I mean, the Odegaard that we saw at Real Sociedad, particularly last season again, was great. I mean, I how many times didn't I say how much I envy the fact that Real Madrid have got all these fantastic youngsters line up and the future looks bright, et cetera, et cetera. We dedicated entire pods to this, right?
Yeah.
The chaos that was going to beset Barca over the next decade or so, and how Madrid was going to just walk away with every league. So it doesn't seem the case right now, and I'm wondering, how much patience do Madridistas, aka you, the leader, the messiah of all Madridistas, have?
Well, I actually maybe it's just me, but I actually think he's been pretty good. I mean, what you want. So the thing is, there's actually, I have much even higher expectations than what I saw at Real Sociedad. I actually think he is. If he gets to his peak, I actually think he can do 4 key passes a game type of thing consistently. That's and maybe in 15 to 17 assists. So I actually think he's going to surpass what we saw at Real Sociedad. That's what I think his ceiling is. Part of that is because he's an amazingly hard worker. Unless injuries get in the way, I think that's what he's going to hit. So how soon he hits that, I'm not sure. Maybe in 3 or 4 years. But I think this season, what I would like for him, first of all, one of the things which in some ways is a variable that he can't control, but he can control some of it if he just continues to be good, is that he needs to play consistently. He can't be kind of rotated in and out of the team that much. He needs to, and I think there's a case that he should start every game, or at least start most games, because he offers a degree of verticality that few players, I mean, especially with Modric past his peak, don't really provide. So ultimately, once you settle on that, you just hope he continues to grow into the team, I think.
Yeah. Barca news. Barca time.
Is Messi getting fined for his celebration? I saw that on
3
sports.
millis.
Yeah.
3,000, excuse me.
Well, mil in Spanish is... It works.
Mil, yes, correct. Yeah. Okay, thank you. The club is, not Messi himself personally, so it's kind of like...
The club, right.
What's his name? Tusquets is like, please, no, don't take any shirts off. We cannot spend any more monies. No money for fines. 3,000 is 3,000 euros, you didn't like this match. You said Barca were bad.
Did I say that?
You said that, yeah. That's sort of, yeah. You interjected my intro, my intro monologue there, saying that they weren't that good.
Well, I'd have to go back and listen to what I said, but I don't think I said that. I think what I said was I haven't been really impressed with Barcelona this season, and I'm not going to get carried away with 4-0 over Osasuna, who
listen, hey.
Yeah, and they just were not good.
No, okay, go on. Osasuna were not good, or Barca were not good?
Osasuna.
Well, listen, I wouldn't have fully disagreed with you that this is, say, the Barca that I want to see or aspire to see, or that let's just say that I demand more from Fútbol Club Barcelona. So, but what I thought was particularly, say, important is that this win, in the comfortable win, came against a team that, entered the league for Real Madrid last season. This was pretty much the same team that, won at the Camp Nou last season, and we saw a very lackluster performance when there was a title on the line. This time it wasn't the case, and look, Koeman also again put out a very unusual, should we say, starting 11, one with some surprises in there. Seeing Braithwaite as the number 9 up top, I think was well deserved. If we're talking about meritocracy, that I think Koeman still somewhat applies when he picks his starting 11. I think that Braithwaite most certainly deserved a spot on the starting 11 this time around, and luckily and thankfully for him, or luckily for him, good for him, he scored a goal as well. It wasn't the prettiest one, but hey, he got it in there. And less surprises. Griezmann on the left which look, Griezmann had a good game. I'm not, I give credit where it is due. Just because I've been critical of Griezmann doesn't mean that I'm not open. I don't say open-minded. And when he proves the doubters wrong, we have to acknowledge that and appreciate that and give credit where it's due. I think that Griezmann and Messi had a good game together. And by that I mean, the interlinking, the passing, the movement, and everything looked pretty sharp, looked good on behalf of those two players. The only if, I guess. By the way, great to see Mingueza as well, of course, in the starting 11. And it's not that Barca has a plethora of central defenders, so he had to come on. But I think that he's proving also to be, a player for the future. Hopefully at Barca, if he can keep this up and continue his development. But and having said that, Longley, of course, got injured. You talk about injuries. I mean, Barca has been plagued by injuries this entire season. Some serious injuries. Luckily, in the case of Longley, I want to say that it's not that serious. That's the last report that I quickly read. I think
about
it's
a
just
week
going to
or
be
so.
over a week or so.
Yeah.
Yes. We agree then. So that's of course good to hear. I guess the only criticism or my only critical analysis when it comes to the starting 11 of Koeman is the use of Pedri. I want to say that he's the most used, or along with Messi, the player that has been used, that has acquired or picked up the most minutes so far. It was interesting that because they were speaking about it during the match on the radio, and a report came out by, don't ask me which doctor, where basically they had studied Pedri's physique and determined that his the level of energy exerted, given his physique, given his age and everything, is less than that of other players. Therefore, he can pick up more mileage, and Koeman can make more use of him.
Interesting.
And that's sort of the. Yeah, it was interesting, and I wish I could go back to it, or I wish I could read more or listen more into it, or read more into it. If that report is out, I should try to look it up. I don't know if it's a public report, but it was sort of mentioned in passing. And as this was mentioned, the main commentator had to take over because there was a shot on goal, and then that topic in and of itself was sort of pushed to the back and not further discussed. But when he did mention it, kind of perked my ears, because initially, I would have loved to have seen Riqui Puig, even Aleñá for that matter, who I think has been, when he does come on, he's played some very, very solid football. We saw that in the Champions League as well. But it's kind of like if Riqui Puig, if you're using Pedri in the double pivot alongside Frenkie, then surely at this point you can also make use of other players on the bench. You're using Pedri literally everywhere, besides as goalkeeper or central defender at this point. Why not make use of all of the other players that we have on the bench that have also been producing very good football? Carles Aleñá, who did come on and again I think had a solid performance. Riqui Puig, who was on the bench and again not used, and you got. I mean, I want Koeman to be pressed on this. There needs to be a very specific and clear answer as to why Riqui Puig he deems not usable for more matches. It's very annoying. I find it. And again, I love Pedri. I mean, everything that we've seen from Pedri so far, he's had better performances, and he's been a little bit on and off, as you would expect from a player who's 17, right? It was just, I mean, you mentioned Martin Odegaard and his adjusting time. I mean, for Pedri, that counts double, if anything. It's the first time that he's playing.
Always a competition with you.
That's that eternal rivalry, baby. So it keeps us going. So again, this is not a knock on Pedri. It's more of not a knock on Koeman. It's just I think a very valid question / concern because of so many matches, because this calendar is so condensed. Why wouldn't you make use of a player that every time he comes on has proved to do something, has proved usable? There's football in this guy's boots, man. Like, and again, it just feels personal almost. It started to feel personal when it came to Valverde. When Quique Setién came in, he talked about how Riqui Puig will most certainly be an important player for him, and we saw it initially, and then he faded into the back. Now we're seeing the same with Koeman. And there's a lot of rumblings around, the Barca campfire when it comes to the character of Riqui Puig. There's a lot of, sort of hearsay. How do you say it? What is that? Hearsay, she say? Or how's that saying go, Kiyan? Is it like hearsay? Is it just hearsay?
You can say just hearsay, yeah.
Okay. That apparently Riqui Puig sort of thinks his balls are as big as the dressing room heavyweights, and that, he slams them on the table and he's like, look at this. And then the other guys go, hey, take it easy, young fella. You're not quite there yet. So I don't know. I don't know him personally, so I can't really judge him on that. I simply judge him on the times that I've seen him out on the pitch, and he's a very good player. Does he need to improve? Certainly, but he's not going to improve with not getting any minutes. So that's my little Riqui Puig rant here, and yeah, I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
Yeah, I've always been on the train that Puig should play more, and I just think it's shocking because after what we saw from last season, I thought he was a really, really good player to just put in there more often. He could do so many things. We've talked about that, but with Pedri,
yes. Pedri
has played the most matches of anyone on the roster this season.
God damn, you see?
13 matches, but his minutes are only about 700 or so minutes, which is about 300 off the pace of Frankie and Messi, who played the most.
Oh, okay. All right.
But
all right. Significant.
I don't have many Pedri notes from this game. I do have some Barca. I think Pedri, there were a couple of times in the first half where he was really poor switching the ball under pressure, and one of them leads to a Burki chance in the box. But I just had some quick thoughts on the attack, and I think Barcelona fans will be really happy, regardless of who the opponent is, that Griezmann and Coutinho were very involved. And so was, everything went through De Jong and Alba on that left side. But I thought Griezmann's movement was fantastic. He was constantly available on both sides of the field for Messi to pick a through ball to. His cutbacks were calculated. His movements were good. He was very composed. His finish was great. I mean, he just slings that at the top of the box, and Herrera had no chance even seeing it, or he didn't even react to it. And I thought, Osasuna are just a bad team. That was my Osasuna thing. I thought Dest was really good, and not that he was troubled much. I mean, there was that one play in that first half. Remember when Johnny comes off because he limps off the field for Osasuna? He just can't keep up with Dest, and he comes off the field. Turns out he's limping. He's injured. It struck me how out of shape he looked. Like he had the full, when you don't shave your neck hair, and
I thought you were gonna say
when you don't shave your neck,
Manscaped, baby.
Well, baby. Maybe you can use Manscaped for your neck. Maybe, I don't know. But when you don't shave your neck hair, it just looks like it's a little bit more fatty. Right. Do you know what I mean? It's just a little bit more meat fluffy to it. Yeah. He had that full on. It was like he didn't shave it, and you could just see. But he had his belly was sticking out. He just did not look in good shape, and I wasn't surprised that he limped off. That was my point. The only reason I brought that up was because Dest was really good, and when I said that, it reminded me of that. Because it was a play where Dest just it looked like Usain Bolt versus me in that play. Mm-hmm. Right. Pedri, De Jong. Oh, I was going to say this.
Okay.
Coutinho was very active offensively, but one of the things that I thought I was keeping an eye on just to see what I've never seen Mingueza play. Obviously, he's the PK filler here, and we're probably going to see him and Araujo, who's back now, or is going to be back for Shakhtar. Or not Shakhtar. That's Real Madrid's opponent. You guys playing Ferencváros again? That's who you're playing?
Ferencváros, yeah.
So we're going to probably see those two together in a non-consequential game, which I guess is kind of interesting for Culés because that's your Barca B combo.
Mingueza and Araujo, you mean?
Yeah. Unless De Jong plays back there, but I think you want to play those two back there, right? I thought he was fine on the ball, but his passing is like a clear drop-off from Piqué. Just not nearly as crisp, sharp a passer. That was my one takeaway from him.
He had one really, really nice pass where he literally went in between three, maybe not three, like two defensive lines of Osasuna. But, he literally cut the entire pitch. I think the pass was to Griezmann, if I'm not mistaken. But that was, for me, one of the standout passes. I wasn't so hawkish on his passing, so I don't know. I think the youngster has been performing really well since stepping into the first team, kind of unexpectedly and abruptly, having to go from playing with the B to then playing with the A team in La Liga Santander. It's a big step, of course, and having to do so quickly and adjust so quickly. I've been well impressed and just very pleased with the youngster.
But at what point do you expect more from him, Diego?
Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, all right.
It's about time.
Stop it.
It's like 90 minutes in.
How did you like the dedication?
That was good.
Rest in peace, Diego.
It was good.
Did you know that was Newell's? Did you know that Maradona played for Newell's?
If you didn't tell me like whose jersey that was, I wouldn't have known. I had to actually when he did, because I knew it was a Newell's jersey, and I didn't know that Maradona had actually played for Newell's. So I had to quickly go on there, and what the cool thing was about that little tribute was that it was actually the original Diego Maradona jersey. Messi's camp, I should say, managed to get their hands on the official. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, that was cool. And I noticed that like when he turned around and I saw the back of the jersey, I was like, damn, that looks like an old, kind of classic, authentic sort of jersey. And then I started to look into it, and just today it came out that report came out that indeed was, Maradona's official authentic jersey that he used during his time at Newell's. So making it nice. At the same time, I also read that apparently now Adidas or I should say Adidas, right, for American listeners.
Yeah, whatever.
Adidas and Nike are now at war because Newell's, of course, is Adidas, Barca's Nike. So there's apparently some conflict that has brewed because of that. The picture, the immortal picture now of Messi, pointing on that jersey and pointing to the sky.
Wow.
Playing for Barca. We'll see. Yeah. It's always nasty, I feel, like when these things get in between kind of nice moments, why should the death of anybody for that matter, but in this case, one of the greats, get in the way of like sponsorships and just ridiculous stuff like that. That shit really annoys me. It always rubs me the wrong way.
One of the reasons why I just can't be a commentator ever, apart from the fact that I just don't think I have that skill to do play-by-play stuff. Maybe an outside chance as a color guy, but when Messi celebrates that, I wouldn't have known that what jersey that was to tell the listeners or tell the audience. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I would have been like, a tribute to somebody. Obviously it was going to be Maradona, but you don't really even know that until he turns his jersey around and you see the 10.
I'll go a step further. I bet you would have been like, oh, is this a message from Messi to the Barca directors? Is he gone? Does he want to play for this club? Whatever this club is? Is Messi signed for this club?
I would start probably just talking about burgers and diets and caloric intake and on my bro science. Also, did you know that was a mirrored version of a goal that Maradona scored for Newell's?
Yeah.
So Maradona apparently scored it with his right foot, which was also this would lead into my commentary panic. So I would look that up on Twitter. Someone posted a video of Maradona scoring a nearly identical goal, but it turns out that was mirrored, and the actual real footage has him scoring with the right foot. So they mirrored it to make it look exactly like Messi's, and you really don't know that unless you do some digging, which I did. The other thing that confused me further is that his
investigative journalism,
his Newell's Old Boy stint, Maradona's, only has him playing 5 times for that club without any goals. But then the Twitter showed us a goal, so I don't know. You need like a NASA degree, a degree in like astrophysics to sometimes figure out what happens in football history.
Maybe that was a friendly. So in official games he didn't score.
Possibly.
But that came in a friendly. The only reason I knew that was really, I would think that's the only reason, is because, Messi and Newell's, and I'd seen the Newell's shirt so many times that I knew that was Newell's. Again, I didn't know that Maradona had played for it. But yeah, man, nice little tribute. Again, and that similarity between those 2 goals, I didn't know it was mirrored, but it just always kind of adds to the myth, the continued myth that keeps being written between Messi and Maradona, and the eternal comparison between these 2, which I enjoy. So
also,
I thought it was pretty great.
What was this? The overreaction of Messi putting his hand in the air, and everyone was like, he tried to do the hand of God goal. I watched that a million. Yes, yeah. I watched that a million times. I don't think that's what he was trying to do. Maybe we just tried a little bit too hard with that one. Also, did you know Diego Maradona's brother, Raul Maradona, played for Toronto?
No, I did not.
Yeah, I didn't expect you to know that one. So did his other brother, Hugo Maradona. Also played for Toronto. Not Toronto FC, Toronto Italia. It's like not the actual MLS team, but so I guess they lived in Toronto.
Toronto Italia.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey. Any good?
I've never heard of them until today, so I don't know.
All right. Hey, nice one. Little fun fact there.
Yeah.
So what else?
Atletico Bayern this week is interesting because I want to know your thoughts on this before we wrap it up. So Bayern head into this game with their own set of like things. One is that they're comfortably qualified. They don't care about this game. And they're not bringing their full team squad, partly because like they have some players like including Neuer and Goretzka who are not injured, but they're not 100% like healthy, so they're not why travel? They're not even traveling. And Atletico are not in the clear yet, and Bayern, despite not having their full team, have not lost in the Champions League for like 15 games or something, or it's like a crazy streak of like wins or whatever. And Ewan is very confident that Atletico just win that game because Bayern don't care and they're not full squad. And I'm not 100% confident. So I think that game is actually pretty big. Because if Atletico don't win, they're only 2 points clear of Lokomotiv Moscow, who are sitting 2 points behind them in third place. And Atletico haven't been great in Europe. So I think that's one that I think is an interesting one to keep our eye on. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be one of those mouth-watering Europe clashes, and I think that if anything, Atletico will want to make good with the last time that they faced Bayern, where it was a bit of a drubbing, man.
A little bit.
What did it?
Yeah, and by a little
How
bit,
much did it finish?
It was
like
quite a drop. Wasn't it 4?
4-0. Sorry, yeah. So, but seeing like that, this Atletico is sort of, it's a newfound Atletico. They're coming into their own. I think that they're operating like a pretty well-oiled machine, I think we can say. For me, it comes down to, who's going to accompany Joao up front. If it's Lamar, will we see the same Lamar that we saw just this last match day against Valencia? And, will we see a Koke in the midfield as commanding and as really kind of take that leadership role, I guess, that we've seen him take sort of earlier on this season when Atletico's performances have just been overwhelming, really, and just very convincing. In Spain, there's a saying, plantar la cara, and it's one of those sayings that I have difficulty translating. But if they can compete and if they can go toe-to-toe with Bayern, I think already they've done, they will have done a great job and will have achieved, let's say. Do I think that they can beat Bayern? I think that's a big ask. I don't know if they can beat them. I would, I think I'm going to go for a 2-0. I'm going to go for a 2-2. I'm going to expect one of the better versions of Atletico, one of the best versions, if you will, that is going to plantar la cara, that will go toe-to-toe with Bayern, and that the match will finish 2-0. That's my prediction.
I think you were talking about the partner to Joao up front. I think Simeone might go something like Llorente and Correa together, which is something he's done in the past, which has looked really good.
Yeah.
So that's something
I
that's
totally
my
forgot about Llorente. Jesus. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, that's it. I think that's probably the pairing we'll see, just because those two together in the absence of Suarez and Diego Costa has looked good. I think that's probably their best bet. With Joao just behind them, I think that's what's going to work, but who knows? I've said. By the way,
sorry.
Yeah.
Go on. No,
I've said everything I want to say, basically. What else did you want to say?
No, I just wanted to, out of curiosity, I didn't see the match, but I saw the highlights between Real Sociedad and Villarreal, and I mentioned at the top of the show that was kind of one of the standout matches of the league, given the fact that those at the time were, number 1 and 2. From what I saw, it looked like kind of a letdown. I don't know. I felt like I don't know. And again, I didn't see the match, so anybody that did see the match, please do call me out and tell me, what are you talking about? This was an awesome game. I felt like the first half sort of, what's his name? The Real Sociedad goalkeeper. I basically felt that it was Asenjo really putting in all the work, or excuse me, the opposite. Asenjo being more of a bystander, and Villarreal taking more of the lead. But again, that didn't see. Put it this way, I didn't feel that there were that many chances created. Again, both goals came from 2 penalties, questionable penalties as well. At that, I felt like Stupinian kind of made a meal out of that fall. He came charging in like absolutely crazy, and it was Aritz, I believe, that went for the tackle, but clearly touches the ball first. So
but he got him on the foul, so I thought it was a penalty.
Was it? Okay, but what happened if he touched the ball first? Then
yeah, but it doesn't matter.
Isn't that automatically then?
No, because if you foul him after you touch the ball, then it's a foul. Because he with the other foot he took out his Estupinian's other foot with his other foot.
Estupinian comes charging in like a man possessed, though. I mean, it's like clearly he was going to get something because of the sheer speed that he's running in the box with. Anyway,
smart play by him. I think Aritz has to not even. Aritz has to just be very careful in that situation because of how strange that play actually is. But I definitely think it was a foul. The one actually I was more confused about was the other one. So mind you, I have to watch this game before tonight's Lone Tracker for Kubo, but I haven't watched it yet. From I was more confused about the other penalty just watching the highlights.
I mean, I felt like it was a weak penalty where Pau Torres sort of elbows, if you will, kind of hits him with this forearm and this elbow area to who was it? Lenormand, I think. But no, I mean, for me, yeah, we're getting used to that. These kind of weak ass penalties being called. Having said that, I've been very impressed that you haven't said anything about the penalty call, the non-calls on Real Madrid.
No, I don't do that. I don't do that. That's your thing. I don't bring the referees into it.
Shut up.
That's your thing.
Well, let's see when titles are on the line, and let's see you. I'm going to record this moment.
Okay.
Churros y Tácticas listeners.
But isn't there supposed to be a conspiracy? Isn't there supposed to be a conspiracy? What happened to the conspiracy?
And Real Madrid doesn't get a penalty call. I don't want to hear a peep come out of Kiyan. Okay, it's on record now. You put it on wax, not me. You yourself did it.
Well, what happened to the conspiracy that Real Madrid only gets help from the referee to win the league title?
My God, I mean, that's they can't get everything.
Okay,
yeah. And I it's pretty evident that Real Madrid is just not a title contender this season. So, the credibility of La Liga itself is still more important than Madrid winning a title.
Mm. All right. Well, that's all I got tonight. Did you see?
And I don't want to hear any fucking tweets being aimed at me. That was a joke. So relax, Madridistas. Relax yourselves. All right. Jesus.
Let's wrap it up here because I got nothing else, and we have a busy week with Champions League. We'll be back Friday, right?
Friday, yes, sir.
That's the plan. So if you guys have questions, and we didn't get a chance to get through your questions on Friday because it was the Maradona episode, feel free to resubmit questions for next Friday. Churros mailbag over on patreon.com/Churros y Tácticas. And if you want access, you also have to be a patron. So if you're supporting the show, you get bonus content and rewards, and also we really appreciate your support. So Diego, thanks, my man. It was fun, and talk soon. Take care.
All right, bye.